Desert and the great American Southwest. I bid you good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the Earth's 25 time zones, each and every one covered by a warm blanket. Well, maybe tonight not so warm. Called Midnight in the Desert. I'm Art Bell. Great to...
And Art Bell, we will be with you just in a second as we start day part 3 of from day 1. Let's quickly hit our mailbag before we get right back to Mr. Bell. Alrighty. And with that being said, we'll start working to get everything completed before the end of the guild reset day. Mr. Bell, my apologies, you were saying.
Be here. I have but 2 rules on the show, so simple, right? Monday through Thursday, anyway. No bad language, and only 1 call per show. Beyond that, virtually anything goes. Okay, so I've got a kind of a cute story for you. Sometimes, occasionally, at about, I don't know, 6 o'clock, 6:15, whatever, I will doze off on the couch, right? You know, you get those, you ever notice that middle of the day, you get a little, sort of a little dip, and then you come back up again? And anyway, that's the middle of my day, so I dozed off. And I guess it was around 7 o'clock, and Aaron said, "Wake up, Daddy." So my 8-year-old Asia came over, not in position, and pushed me as hard as she could. "Wake up, Daddy!" And she thought it was the funniest thing she ever saw in her life, as, of course, I nearly, had a malfunction in my body, right? Oh, God, she scared me. Anyway, you also may have noticed that all day long, if you watch CNN, if you subject yourself to that, all day long they've been playing an endless loop of this young, unfortunate 15 or 16-year-old girl in school who gets yanked out of her chair by a cop.
By the way, the original date of this episode is October 27th, 2015. Mr. Bell, you were speaking about a cop?
Apparently she had refused to yield her cell phone. And it escalated to that, right? And there's a big argument. Cop might get fired now. And she got dragged across the floor. It was pretty bad, slammed in handcuffs, I guess, on her belly by this big cop. And they've been just playing it to death, as they do with whatever they get their teeth into. Anyway, we were eating dinner, and I was reflecting on still being alive after awakening that way. And Asia has a seat that can see the TV in the background. Sound was down, but CNN was playing this thing again and again of this girl getting ripped out of, in the classroom, right? Ripped out of the chair, drug along the floor, and then handcuffs slammed on, and she got real serious, and she looked at me, and she said, "Dad, what did she do?" And I said, well, I just didn't say anything for a second. I looked at her real seriously, and I said, "Misspelled a word." Man, you should have seen her face. Karma. Some good stuff we're going to be talking about tonight. I am really concerned and worried. Oh, wait. I have a couple of stations to welcome to the network tonight. I would like to welcome WHKT-AM in Norfolk, Virginia. And I assume that's the way you say it, right? 1650 AM in Norfolk, Virginia. I hope that's the way you say it. If I lived there, I would not like people to call it Norfolk. It's Norfolk, right? Anyway, if you're from the area, somebody will call me from there and let me know. Also, KBRC-AM in Mount Vernon, Washington, 1430 AM. Welcome to the network. Now you'll be sorry. Last night, KABC in Los Angeles. Tonight, U2. So welcome. Good luck. Boots on the ground in Syria. Okay, that is the refrain beginning to get signaled from the United States. It looks as though our president, who was completely, absolutely against the idea of more boots in Iraq or Syria, is now seemingly changing his mind. I guess because of ISIS. But you have to consider the soup in Syria for you to understand how incredibly dangerous this is. And I do agree, we may have to have boots on the ground in Syria if we're going to have any real effect. But you've got Assad, right? Then you've got the rebels trying to overthrow Assad, right? Then you've got the Russians who are on the side of the government, Assad, and they're bombing the rebels for the most part, right? Helping us to death. Meanwhile, we're trying to help, well, all kinds of people. We're trying to help anybody fighting, and it's not many, by the way, ISIS. And, of course, in Iraq, we're trying to help the Kurds. And the whole thing is a dangerous mixture that could explode into World War III. When you have American planes, and we're talking about a no-fly zone too, American planes and Russian planes, splitting wingtips, somebody's going to let loose with a missile, and something is going to go horribly, horribly wrong. So there you have it. That's my opinion. I think it's dangerous. And here's some more dangerous stuff. Our U.S. Navy sailed a warship, and it's a good thing we did, past one of China's big artificial islands. Have you seen those in the South China Sea on Tuesday? I have a question for you. If you build an island where there was not an island before, does that make it, well, in this case, I guess not a new country, but otherwise, if you put an island where there was not an island before, is it real? Can you call it a country? Can you hoist a flag, threaten to attack the U.S., and make, get foreign aid? Anyway, this is no joke, really. It's in the Spratly Islands, claimed this section by the Philippines. And what they did is they went to kind of a high sand dune, I guess, and built an island pretty big. So we sent a Navy warship with our flag sailing by. They warned us, said, get away from our airspace. They claimed 12 miles. Can you claim 12 miles around an artificial island? I think it's a good question. Because is it really there? The only reason it's sticking out of the water is because a bunch of Chinese went out there and built it up, right? The Cassini spacecraft is about to get an icy shower. It is going to do something really interesting. It's going to go right through frozen particles that are erupting from the South Pole in Cladus, one of the moons, one of Saturn's many moons actually, and it's going to go through frozen moisture. Now it's going fast, 19,000 miles an hour. So it's going to go through it really quickly. Nevertheless, it's dangerous. Hopefully it makes it through. One more item from the anomalist. It seems that cosmonauts, Russians, got more than their fair share of anomalous experiences while orbiting Earth in the early years of the Russian space program. As we learn more, as reports come out of Russia that we didn't get before, everything from seeing a disappearing island, I like that one, in the Indian Ocean, as they watched, to even stranger accounts of bizarre occurrences they called the Space Whisperer. Now, what would that be? All right, so coming up in a moment, we have Tish Owen. In 1991, Tish Owen opened the Goddess in the Moon, a metaphysical shop in downtown Nashville, Tennessee. Country music stars Taylor Swift, Reba McEntire, Keith Urban, and Trisha Yearwood have had her perform at divination parties. How about that? The Atlantic City Tourism Board, Showtime Network, Dell Computers, and many more have hired her for readings as well. And you know, as I read this, I wondered, what did Dell want with her? And did Showtime put a curse on HBO? Dell Computers, who knows what they might have been up to. Anyway, she's been a fixture at Cheryl Kenyon romance and fiction writer conventions. On November 2nd, she will appear at the A&E show Cursed in a 5-part program about the Bell Witch, nice name, huh, who is a local legend. Tish has appeared on radio, TV, been featured in magazines and newspapers, writes, and is editor of Green Egg magazine, the oldest pagan magazine in the country. She is also a host on Green Egg Radio. Tish is a practicing witch and has been for 20 years. She has performed at a pagan church, serving pagans in religion and life. She is the coordinator for Pagan Unity Festival, a 4-day event in Middle Tennessee that is 18 years old and draws people from all over the country. Pagan authors, practitioners of magic, we're going to be asking about that, music and workshops fill the weekend. This happens every May. Tish also coordinates Spirit Fest, a metaphysical event that is now in its 5th year and happens every October. She was part of the response to my request for a spell casting, cauldron stirring, and so forth and so on, which you get the idea, right? So we'll see about Trish in just a moment.
Again, we're just muted until the audio bumper is complete. We'll be back with tonight's guest, Trish Owen, with Art to Bell, Midnight in the Desert, in just a few seconds. Meantime, let's hit the dungeon, also otherwise known as the Fungeon. Alrighty, let's start fighting. And keep on fighting. And now, back to Art.
Night in the Desert is pounding packets your way on the Dark Matter Digital Network. To call the show, please direct your finger digits to dial 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952. Call Art.
That'd be the number. Not right now. Hold your calls. Here comes Tish. And oh, by the way, you might want to go to my website and look at a picture of Tish. You want to see a picture that'll make your blood run? Well, that might be going too far. But, pretty scary, actually. Tish Owen's picture is, won't make your blood run cold, but, well, it may, depending on what kind of 5th grade teacher you had. Hi, Tish. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Art. I'm trying to stop laughing.
Good, because this is serious business.
That's right. It is.
So, I guess I just read, but I mean, you've been a witch how long now?
About 25 years.
25 years, all right.
About 25 years, and started looking. I practice it as a religion and as witchcraft, which I think for me, it's all kind of mixed together. But I started looking when my children were young, and I became rather disenfranchised and disenchanted with the Catholic Church.
Oh, really? So
yeah.
you are a Catholic now turned witch.
There's a lot of us. You have no idea.
Actually, I might. And the Catholic Church and witchcraft and paganism actually have a lot in common when it comes to.
Oh.
Well, they do.
That's true. They do. They're just pagans with really good buildings and more money.
Nice windows. Yeah.
Nice windows,
Right.
beautiful. Yes.
All right. The big question for me is witchcraft real?
I certainly hope so.
Well, you're in
yes.
a position to answer that more than I am. I hope it is.
I hope it is. I believe it is. I practiced it. This is full moon, as a matter of fact, tonight. And so before I came home to come and talk to you, I participated in full moon ritual. And what we did in ritual tonight was we have a list. We have a working list. And we also have on Facebook, we have a page that is about changing the world through magic. And we think that because we're witches and we know how to tap in to the power and to utilize it, that we can create change in the world. And so for the next 2 weeks, we're working on ending religious persecution.
That's a good thing to do, I guess.
Well, and it's not, so we're putting the energy
I was
into
personally hoping you were burning somebody at the stake and skinning somebody alive at the same time on the other side of the room.
We don't have good enough fans for that. we can never get the smell out. But
good answer.
We did have a cauldron.
Seriously?
Yes, of course. What are you going to burn things in?
Or people.
Or people. Well, you have to have a little tiny person because it's not a very big cauldron.
Yeah. Without asking you specifically what you mix up in a cauldron, what are you making?
Well, it depends. It depends on what you're doing. We actually made a list of things that we would like to go away, and we kind of put the energy into it and lit it on fire and threw it in the cauldron. I've seen soup cooked in a cauldron. It was very good, by the way. So it depends. So herbs and
a soup of who? I'm sorry.
A soup of who? A soup of who?
Yeah.
Tiny tender babies, but we only use organic local.
I'm messing with you. So, what I guess I really want to know, Tish, is whether magic is real.
I believe that it is real. I've seen some pretty amazing things. I feel like that we have been able to, or I've been able to, change the course of things because it is just using energy. We all have the power to pull in energy and utilize it. Why do you think people pray, Art?
Same reason, yeah. I agree. Same reason.
Same reason. It's the same reason. And we have a little more bells and whistles because we have cauldrons, but you utilize the energy to affect change, to bend things to your will, to make things better or to make things happier.
All right, let's go down that. Let's go down that road. Bend things to your will. Yes. How about bending people to your will?
I don't recommend it.
I didn't ask your recommendation. I said, can you do it?
Can you do it? Okay, so let me just say that when you are bending someone to your will, you are very probably bending them against their own free will, which is a very difficult thing to do. You better make sure you want to do it. And I've seen people do a love spell. You think that's a pretty innocuous, fairly simple thing. But a girl I knew did a love spell, and she absolutely would not be talked out of it. And then it took her 3 years to get rid of the guy once she figured out she really didn't want him.
Yeah. Well, that's usually the way it works out in movies. Love spells are cast.
Well, it works out that way in real life, too.
That's right.
The thing about doing any kind of magic spell is magic, once you fire it and let go of it, can go in 3 or 4 different directions, several of which you didn't intend, one of which might be downright pleasant, and one of which might actually work. And so I advise people to pray like a lawyer.
Yeah. Pray like a lawyer.
Well, get your words out there. Here's exactly what I want, because the universe, I feel, you can do whatever you want to that, I feel the universe is a place of neutrality, and so what you ask for, you get. That's why being negative is not such a good idea. Being positive is a better idea. Don't be mean to don't kick your neighbor's dog. All those kinds of things.
Yeah, but okay, I'm going to lay the same thing that I have on other witches on you. If somebody's coming after you, Trish, and when I say coming after you, I mean, I don't know, stalking you, maybe trying to break into your place and knife you or choke you to death, or, coming as if somebody's coming after you. And you had to use witchcraft to go after, a good defense is a very good offense, right? So,
by the way, there is the actual individual in question for tonight, Tish Owens, mostly from Nashville, Tennessee. Just so you have a picture of who is being referred to. Now, back to Dominion in the dungeon and to Art.
if you had to go after them to do something to them in that extreme circumstance, could that be done?
Yes.
Okay, so if I want somebody to die a horrible, painful, twitching death, I would have to give up a lot of karma to get that achieved.
Yeah, you would. And do you really think you have the right to do that?
It depends.
Okay. I'm not going to recommend it because yes, I do, and I've had people say, "Oh, karma, you're silly, you're being ridiculous." But I have seen karma, and I've seen instantaneous karma, and I've seen quite awful karma.
Yes.
And so I absolutely have to believe it. So somebody's going to have to really do something really, really bad for me to want them to die in a fire.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
So I again don't recommend it. But have I seen people have? I've done a couple of things. I have no shame.
We've all done things we're not proud of.
Well, no, I'm not ashamed of it. I felt like I was justified. When somebody does something to you or hurts you or screws you or now if somebody is coming after me to hurt me now in this immediate moment and they're running toward me, I'm gonna reach over here and pick my gun up.
Good for you.
I'm not gonna throw a fireball at them. So because
it'd be cool if you could throw a fireball though.
Sadly, it could. It would be so awesome. But sadly, I cannot.
Okay, so I understand you can't throw fireballs, and if you said you could, then we'd have a program going on here. But if you can sort of throw a fireball of intent, and I think that's what we're really talking about here,
that's
Trish.
Exactly what we're talking about.
And when you pray in church, it's intent. I did some experiments, and I'm going to only bore you for a second, audience. Years ago, on another show, in another universe far, far away, I did some, I got involved with the university, Princeton, that's doing this experiment, and they set up an experiment with me. Then, Trish, I went far beyond that, and I began to attempt to control the weather in locations, and I did so successfully, time and time again. And these weren't the wussy kind of changes. These were areas that had no prediction of rain and needed it desperately, that kind of thing. And we actually created rain. It was astounding. I was working with millions of minds intent on one thing. I don't know anything about how intent works, except I did a total of 10 or 12 experiments, about 10, I think, including one for somebody who's very, very ill. Couple actually, and those worked as well. So I got to the point where it began to scare me. For one thing, I thought no single person should have that much power, and for another, people were suggesting to me that I try and move a hurricane, which I thought, boy, could that go the wrong way. I'll move it back out to sea, it'll get more strength, and then really hit. And then, in other words, unintended consequences. And that's something that can happen with what you do for your work, right?
I absolutely agree. And to say, there's a show on ABC, we'll plug them, Once Upon a Time, and the bad guy says all the time, magic comes with a price, dearie.
Yeah.
And he's right. It does. You have to understand what you're doing. You have to understand what the ramifications might be, which you did. you understood that you could move it or send it back or whatever, and it would make never what you intended.
Yeah, I realized
a horrible time.
I didn't know enough about what I was doing to go forward without risk. But what I did find out, Tish, is that it's real.
It's real.
Oh yeah, it's real. Now, try to answer this one for me, Tish. Do you think it matters or makes a difference if there is one mind projecting strong intent about something, or there are millions of minds projecting the same intent at the same time? Is one force greater than the other?
Yes, because there's strength in numbers. I believe. I feel like there is. And on a small scale, talking about the weather, because we have a festival that we do in May. And in May, in Tennessee, you can have anything. You can have straight line winds. You can have tornadoes. You can have beautiful, sunny 80 degrees.
Sure.
You can freeze to death. I mean, it runs the gamut. But what you would prefer not to have is the kind of rain that we sometimes get. And so if you put a bunch of people with the same mindset, and they have to have the exact same idea, or it works much better if they do, of moving this storm, just gently moving it so that it would split around us. And it did. Not just once. We've been doing this Pagan Unity Festival for 18, coming up on 19 years, and we've done it many times.
You know, though, here's
to get some relief.
Yeah, I get you. But here's what I worry about, Tish. You could move the storm into an area with a higher concentration of moisture in the air, or more preheating, and instead of being a storm that now misses your festival or whatever it is, it becomes a tornado and comes down and destroys 50 mobile homes.
Okay, so would you like to know how we did it?
You mean safely?
It's old magic. It's old folk magic. But you take an axe.
All right,
head.
Hold on. Hold that thought. Hold that thought, Tish. We're at a break.
Okay. All right.
Alrighty, again, we're just muted for the bumper music. Once the music is over and they're back, we'll be back with them as we continue in the dungeon. You're on the overnight edition of From Day One. And there we go. And we move on to complete level 420. Actually, let's go the other way.
Hi, this is Midnight in the Desert with Art Bell. Please call the show at 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952-CALL-ART.
My guest is Tish Owen. She is a witch, and I think she is the real McCoy. Back to her now. Tish, welcome back. You were going to say you safely whisked this little storm away.
We didn't really send it somewhere else. We used folk magic, heal magic, Appalachian magic, all those things. And we buried an axe head. Buried the axe head, split the storm. Just split it around us. Very gently.
You buried an axe head?
We did. In the direction from which the storm was coming.
Cool.
And
it
works like a charm.
Really? All right. Let's switch topics a little bit.
All right.
Is it possible or not to put a curse on a person or an organization?
It is. It takes an awful lot of work, concerted effort, the willingness to put aside your moral compass and take whatever karma comes from you or comes to you.
If you get angry enough, that's no problem.
Well, if I get angry enough, I'll just kneecap them and go down the road. But the amount of effort that is put forth for a curse. A curse. Okay, so there's spells.
Yes.
And there's hexes. Not
Are
as
these
bad.
all?
And then there's curses.
These are all distinct things.
I think they're distinct things. In my estimation, they are.
Okay, then
Somebody
please
may call us and tell us that I'm wrong. But
draw for me the distinction between them, please.
all right. So spells are for all kinds of things. They're for jobs and houses and cars and monies and that your dog won't die and that your next door neighbor will stop, I don't know, cutting his branches and throwing them in your yard, whatever. For like a lot of things.
Practical things.
Practical things. And for healing and for, helping people. And the one that we did tonight that we set into motion is to stop religious persecution across the board. Everybody just stop. And so that's a spell that we put into motion. A hex can be a very simple thing that you throw energy at someone that, they'll have a bad day or they'll stop doing what they're doing. And it's a little baneful magic. A curse, I feel like, is a whole big production to make this happen. And I think my question would always have to be, why? Why would you put forth the kind of effort and also reap the kind of karma that is going to come? And it is. You know it is. Or I know it is. I think it is.
Well, look, Tish, we've got people dressed in black right now, over in Syria lopping off heads and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true.
So there are people, trust me, willing to go to the very, very darkest side.
And I think that that kind of does lend itself to the kind of magic that would be baneful that you would be willing to take the hit for to stop these people.
Well, listen, they're willing to take the hit, Tish, just to bring on, I guess, the center part of their ideology is to ignite Armageddon.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So how do we put together a curse that would be effective? Ooh, there's all kinds of things to think about.
I don't know. Yeah, I think you're already on a very tough track. If you did a whole spell tonight to try and stop religious persecution, there's going to have to be more of you. Because in all of man's history, there has been religious persecution. In fact, your folks, I think, were pretty much tied to stuff and then burned to death.
There were barbecues.
I understand that you folks are probably sensitive about the whole fire issue.
A little paranoid, just a little. Just kind of like the Scarecrow in Wizard of Oz, a little paranoid about fire. And I agree with you. But this one issue, religious persecution. We have several hundred and getting people more all the time on this Facebook group, and we say, here's what we're working on. Mm-hmm. Here's how you need to visualize it. But also, write your letters, send your emails, because I really believe you use energy and to put a thing in motion, but then you have to do something practical.
In other words,
Bernie Sanders wins the election, that's good, and you can do energy, but you have to vote for him.
Yeah. So witches can use social media, huh?
Well, we do. We love social media.
Apparently, yes.
It's the greatest thing ever.
So it's like you could tweet somebody to death.
I'm sorry. The image of that is awesome. I may have to.
I'm sorry.
That's great. So, and we Twittered him to death. It was awful.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. There you go. I mean that is more people and more intent. There's no question about it.
It's true.
That's so interesting.
The more the better, and the more people putting energy into it. Once upon a time when I was a young Catholic girl, and the nuns would tell us, if you want something, if you need something, you should besiege heaven with your prayer.
Yeah.
And I see no difference. I'm besieging and putting the energy.
Well, I'll ask you about a difference, all right? You ready?
All right.
All right, so I imagine the young girl besieging heaven for something or another. And then I wonder if this same young girl trained in witchcraft, in the very most powerful, darkest part of witchcraft, could, instead of beseeching, up there, beseech whatever it is that you witches beseech, and which would be the more effective?
Okay, so if you're asking about beseeching the devil, first of all, I don't believe in the devil.
No, I didn't say that.
So there's
I
your
didn't
first
say
issue.
the devil.
but
didn't.
energy has two sides. It's like the Force in Star Wars. There's a light side and a dark side.
All right.
It's two sides of the same coin.
Okay, fine. All right, so what do you worship?
I don't worship anything, because the energies that I work with do not demand worship. I work with.
Good answer, I guess.
It's a great answer, which is why I gave it to you. But there are energies in the universe. There is, I believe, and you know what? That and a bucket of water will get you a cup of coffee almost anywhere. I believe that there is energy in the universe, that which is God, the unknowable, unobtainable, unfathomable energy, that which is God.
So you believe in God?
I believe that there's a God. Of course I do. There has to be. Well, I think there has to be. But because we can't imagine this force, this energy, we have to have something practical to hang our deity on. And so we have Jesus and Buddha and have Muhammad, and pagans have lots and lots. We have Thor, and we have Odin, and we have Zeus, and we have Poseidon. It's awesome.
All right. Yeah, I know you got all those guys. All right, so, Tish, here's a question for you. You believe in God. You said that, right?
Yes.
And yet you worship others at the same time. Sorry. Wrong phrase.
No, that's fine.
Appeal to them for help or what you want?
Yes.
Okay.
Energy, yes, help, please help me, I need this.
So how does this fit into there shall be no others before me?
But it's all the same God. It's all the same energy.
Oh, you think?
I do.
I understand witches believe in, earth, fire.
Right. Definitely.
Let me tell you something just so we know what we're doing here. Okay. My wife, who's passed now, was a witch. So I know something about what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you know a little. I know you do.
A little, I do.
I think you know a lot, Art.
Well, a little. No, a little. I mean, okay. I picked it up. We had, there must have been 100 little black sacks around our house, hidden away in dark little corners, filled with black stuff.
Uh-huh.
And, I was told that it was a protective measure.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so I do know a little bit about all of this, and I know that, there is a dark side, or can be a dark side to witchcraft. Now, when you want somebody to die a horrible, twitching, shameful death, you don't go to the Catholic Church, usually.
No, not usually. You don't even go to the Methodist for that.
That's right. So you come to somebody like Tish.
No, because I'm not going to do that for you.
Well, you haven't been presented with the circumstances yet.
Okay,
maybe
you're right.
I haven't been.
But if I'm not willing to take a gun and go and shoot them,
yeah,
why would I be willing to try and make them die? I have a hard time.
Because it's way harder to prove in court, Tish.
Well, there is that. Oh, there is that. Oh, Art, you may have started something terrible tonight.
So then there's this karmic thing to look out for. In other words, what you do comes back 3 times or 10 times or whatever. What is it, 3?
Depends on, I think it depends.
Yeah.
So I would say at least 3.
All right.
Maybe 10, but let's be conservative and say 3.
All right. Let us say that you issue the horrible twitching death thing on somebody, and then, of course, you're going to have to contemplate the karmic consequences. Is there anything you can do to mitigate these consequences? Can you set up a defense that will make perhaps what comes back at you not as painful?
I think that sometimes, in a lot of circumstances, magical and otherwise, that people try to make amends for the things that they have done. It doesn't always work. But karma is not, it's not God sitting on a throne in heaven punishing you.
No.
Karma is what you deserve. You set it up. You put it out there.
Yeah.
You created it.
Right, but that wasn't my question now.
I don't think you can get away with it.
Is there anything you can do to mitigate the karmic consequences? Can you set up protective measures?
You could, but I don't think you'll be successful. Because what you're doing is you're fighting your own self, are you not? If karma is that you set up and you created, people act like karma is a punishment.
Well, it is kind of, right?
It's a lesson. It's a lesson, right? But if you set it up and you set this in motion, then I don't know that you can defend from it. And then I'll tell you this, that a lot of people who do things, not killing people with horrible twitching death, but, things that are very, very negative against other people may not believe it, that there's karma, or may not realize that there's karma until it's too late.
Yes, but somebody in your position would know. You would know if you were, for whatever terrible reason, you had to do something like that.
But I'd be willing to take the hit, too.
Well, still, would there not be some protective measures you could try?
I could try. There's a lot of things I could try.
Well, there you are.
I mean, there are. There's a lot of things that
See, I didn't even know you were from the South till you said try.
Well, I am.
So how is it you're still alive? You're where exactly again?
I am in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville. Well, maybe there's protection in the music. Otherwise, you're in the South. And, if this were 100 years ago and there was still radio, you wouldn't last the show.
Art, I've been held at gunpoint with shotguns. So.
Oh, seriously?
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Because
we scared the rangers at a park, and they thought that we were devil worshippers, and they came with shotguns cocked and loaded, and there ain't nothing like the sound of a shotgun being
20 gauge,
being chambered.
Getting racked, you bet.
Ain't nothing like it. It'll set you, it'll make you pay attention, I promise.
So they caught you dancing around a cauldron or something?
Yeah.
Okay, see, if you go into a national park and you dance around a cauldron, you probably have to expect the possibility of upset people.
Art, we had a permit.
To do that?
Well, I don't think that
somehow I doubt it.
But we had a permit for the park area.
Really?
Yeah, we had a permit for it.
A lot of people have disappeared in national parks, you know that.
Well, it was a Nashville park. It wasn't
Nashville Park. Okay.
Yeah, and so it was. So we scared the rangers, and they came locked and loaded. So it was a rather interesting evening.
That's an interesting story. Period.
I caused a lot of trouble with that story. I just want you to know that.
Is that like in the middle of Nashville?
Yeah. Well, it's on the outskirts, but yeah. Now, this has been probably 10 years ago. I'm going to say it's been 10 years ago. Maybe not that long. And so I was, as you can imagine, I was really mad, but you don't tell men with shotguns that you're mad at them.
No.
You behave and you do what they tell you. And we did. But I did have a conversation, not really a conversation, but with one of the guys that was really castigating me and us on what we were doing, that we were turning the park, we were turning it into something else other than what it was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure. I thought it was for the people, and I said, I tell you what, I'm willing to bet on which of us can get to your boss on Monday morning first. Because I'm going to bet it's me. And I wrote a really very hot letter, which ended up on the desk of the commissioner of the parks.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a meeting about it. And I ended up teaching a class to the rangers about what we were, what we did, and that we're not devil worshippers. And it ended up being very interesting, but really scary. I mean, really, really scary. I was scared.
All of that said, Tish, you do believe in the right of religious freedom.
I do.
So much so that you cast spells about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't that and couldn't that and shouldn't that include the right to worship the devil if you want to?
Hey, I don't have a problem. You know what? If that's what you want to do. But when I was 15 years old, my father, who was a good practicing Catholic, told me there wasn't the devil, and I believed him, and I still do. But if you want to worship the devil, if you want to worship a toaster or a Calvinator refrigerator, for by all means, have at it.
I like the idea of the toaster. There's probably power in a toaster.
The cult of toast.
The cult of toast. That's good. All right. So it is possible to. We've got. Let's see. We've got spells. We've got curses. And what was the third?
Hexes.
Hexes. Right. Are there relative powers attached to each one of those that are different?
Well, you have to know what you're doing, and you have to be willing to do it. And the thing about, I think, too, the difference with between a hex and a curse, and a hex is just hoping that something really terrible happens, and curses are more long-lived. Like we've got the whole legend of the Bell Witch, and the land is cursed, and the descendants are cursed, and so a curse has a whole lot more ramifications of it than, but I mean, people come in, because I own a shop, and people come in to me on a regular basis to sit down and say to me, I need to know if there's a curse on me.
Right.
Yeah, and so the first thing I say is, well, who have you really made angry? Who's really angry with you? Well, nobody. Well, then you don't have a curse. You just have bad luck.
Well, I mean, that's probably a general truth. You don't make enemies, they don't make curses on you. But, could be that you offended somebody in some way or in business or, who knows, a million different ways, and you didn't even know you made them that angry.
But you ought to have a pretty good idea. It's probably your baby daddy other girlfriend.
Well, when I said organizations earlier, I was thinking of the Curse of the Bambino, right?
Right,
sure
yes.
You know that one.
Yes.
So that seemed like one that was, anyway, here we are at another break. Boy, that went fast. Hold on just a moment. This will be a short break, Tish. Back with witchcraft. You really got to see Tish's picture. It's up at artbell.com.
Alrighty. Unfortunately, that picture is long gone. I have a feeling it probably is not the same as the Google images that I brought up for you guys of Tish. And again, we'll be back to them as soon as they're done with their musical bumper. It should be in just a few seconds.
Please dial 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952-CRAWL ART.
Can't help it, that is so my favorite. That's my brother up there in Reno. Tish Owen is my guest, and she is a real witch. This is Halloween week, folks, and we're going to cap it off on Friday with something that I have decided to call simply Dead Air. And I think you're going to enjoy it. It's going to be a little different this year, to say the least. Nevertheless, if you have a spectacular a ghost story that you wish to tell, email it, please, to me, artbell@knye.com. That's artbell at K kilowatt, N Nora, Y Yokohama, E easy.com. And include your phone number for airtime, and if it's a cool story, I may call you. Once again, Tish Owen. Tish Owen. And don't miss her picture, by the way. Don't miss it. It's a really, really good picture. Up
You're
on
gonna
our
make
web.
You're gonna make me self-conscious now about my picture.
It's a cool picture.
I thought it was cool. Now you're like.
It is cool. It is cool.
We're gonna use it to scare small children and so.
There's lots of good stuff to scare us. You hear my story at the beginning?
Oh, I did. That was so great.
You should have seen the expression on her face. She misspelled a word.
Oh, that is so. You're going to pay for that.
Her face just froze. Well, it's karma.
It's karma. So
the way she
she's
woke me
16,
up.
she's going to make you suffer for that. You'll have to teach her to drive. That will be your punishment.
That is punishment, too.
Yeah.
All right. So, if you wouldn't mind, not everybody knows, but they've heard of the Curse of the Bell Witch.
Right.
Tell the story as best you know it.
There are so many different directions that comes from, but basically the legend is there was a woman whose name was Kate Batts, who was a neighbor of John Bell. John Bell being very wealthy and had, a bazillion acres that he got in a land grant, I think. And there was either A, they had a bad land deal between them, although there's no record of it. B, they had an affair and he jilted her. Again, there's no record of it. Or something else. And that she was a witch and she put a curse on him and cursed not only John Bell, but members of his family forever and ever ad infinitum, ad nauseum. And John Bell did become sick, but you have to look at everything that there. I mean, if you stuck
now
yourself
you're scaring me. I'm gonna have to go.
Die.
I'm gonna have to go to the Green Leaf place and see if there's a relationship. Oh, I hope not.
And yes, you should. And members of the family suffered, and there was banging and clanging, and people got thrown against walls, and things went flying. But there was also a young girl, and so it could have been poltergeist activity because that happens with teenage girls primarily. And there's, Andrew Jackson stayed there, and he said he would never stay there again. That's not true. There's no record of Andrew ever having been in that part of the country when that particular statement was made. So, but again, just like with the devil and many other things, the more energy put into a thing, I believe, again, I think, the more real it becomes. Is it funky? Does it feel weird? Yes. Is there something out there? Very probably. Because there's been so much negative energy put into this idea of the Bell Witch. But I will tell you this, and I want people that are willing to swear of it. The guys came in to film for this A&E show. Mm-hmm. Lovely people. We had about 20 people that were, sound and lights and air and the whole 9 yards. And when they left, after we kind of, sat back and recovered of the 6-hour shooting that we did, we had weird stuff happen in the shop.
Oh.
Weird enough that we're all kind of looking at each other going, something's up. I mean, pictures not just falling off walls, but falling off walls and landing in a trajectory across the room.
Oh.
Those kinds of things.
Seriously?
Yeah, for real. I mean, I'll give you a list of people. You can call them. And they'll say, yeah, it was kind of crazy. And so we started, you start simply. You open the doors or windows or whatever, and you burn sage, which is, of course, Native American, and you do it in a counterclockwise fashion, and you try and chase out whatever it is, and you use sweet grass to bring in good vibes and good energy. And, because in some forms of paganism, Wicca, you call quarters and you ask for guardians to come and to protect the space, and you fill it with white light. And we did it, and we did it, and we did it, and we did it for about 2 weeks. Before it started to feel normal again.
Wow.
Yeah. So whatever you think or don't think or believe or don't believe, those guys have been out there tromping around. They had picked up whatever this entity, whatever it is, this energy, this whatever, does not particularly like to be dealt with or revealed or the light shined upon it.
Right.
Okay, because Adams, Tennessee is a little bitty town in Tennessee, and obviously, and there's not a lot of commerce there. There's not a lot of industry there. It has a very adorable little square. You would think for something as phenomenal and as wide-reaching, there's 2 or 3 shows on right now about the Bell Witch, that they'd have Bell Witch Day. They'd have They would rebuild the old John Bell place and give tours. They would have shops on the square that would sell witch stuff. They don't.
And there's a good reason, because
They ain't stupid.
it's real.
I feel like there's, and I cannot tell you what it is, but something is there, and we dealt with a little tiny bit of it when these guys came in. I don't even know if they realized that they were carrying in this negative energy, but they certainly did, and we dealt with the aftermath. And I have not yet. I guess I probably should get hold of the producers and go, hey, guess what, guys? Guess what we did for 2 weeks after you left? We cleaned up the mess. But that is exactly why there's not Bell Witch Day, I think, in my estimation, because people up there, it makes them nervous, and I'm not going to the Bell Witch Cave.
Okay, so here's a question for you. That would indicate it was a very strong whatever curse, whatever.
Right.
So I'm going to ask you. You've been a witch a long, long time. There are many, many, many witches with less potential power than you have. There must be others with perhaps a lot more power. Would you think that would be true or not?
Sure.
Not?
Absolutely.
Yes?
Absolutely. But I also think that whatever happened with the John Bell thing, there's been a lot of energy put into it, and it's an ongoing.
Oh, yes.
We'll talk about it. We're talking about it. There's a TV show about it. People in Adams are scared of it. People, that is a rite of passage in the state of Tennessee to drive up with a carload of other kids and go to the cave on the Bell property.
Hmm.
It's a rite of passage. It's like drinking beer, having your first shot of Jack Daniels.
Yeah, but how can you be sure the passage won't be to the other side?
Exactly. I don't know that anybody's disappeared yet, but I don't know. I just feel like so much has been put into it over the last couple of 100 years that it is a real energy that is very negative and very nasty.
Why are curses so long-lasting as opposed to spells or hexes?
Because usually hexes and spells are for a specific purpose, like right now. And if you get mad at somebody and your boyfriend and he didn't do you right, and you want to put a hex on him and have him not ever be able to have sex again or whatever.
Oh.
See, that's really mean. But
it is.
But also just normal wear and tear, things dissipate. If you put a big balloon around your house, sooner or later, it would get holes in it from erosion and from the weather and whatever. Spells and hexes are the same way. And usually hexes are kind of a short thing right now. Bam, I need to make your, left arm fall off, whatever. But curses are much more involved. They're much longer. They're much more horrifying. They're much more energy and usually hate and anger put into them. Because because spells are fueled by emotion. Everything is in the whole universe. But
okay, well, here's one way to look at it. If this were a long time ago and you were up on a 2x4, hoisted above a bunch of burning stuff, and you were about to be burned to death as a witch,
I would throw everything in me at them.
There you have it. There you have it. And
there
so
you have it.
That's some pretty powerful mojo headed toward people out there clapping and having a good old time.
And so it should be. But I mean, there's legends of Irish curses that were put on Cromwell and the House of Orange, that there's all that emotion, that almost the death throes, that if they took everything and they killed everything and they even killed the dog, and there's so much anger and emotion put into that. And so, words are, why do you think that in all the books and all the movies and all the stories that the wizards had magic words? Because words are powerful.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have magic words. It wasn't abracadabra. It is, I'm going to screw you up forever.
Yeah.
And it's powerful, and it is fueled and powered by raw emotion.
And maybe not just you, but your sons, your daughters, their sons, their daughters, and on and on.
I want them all, everybody in your line. I want them all to have horribleness. Now, boy, that's not something I would care to participate in.
Well, as I mentioned, though, if the flames are licking at your ankles, what the hell?
Doesn't matter, right?
That's right.
Karma is already here. It's at the door.
That's right. I suppose that karma could be projected upon some future life, and some poor soul who would have no idea why he or she was being punished in this way. If you believe in reincarnation.
If you believe in reincarnation.
Do you?
Yes. I think it's the only thing that logically makes sense. I think that to be created and walk this earth and all we get is a 410, and that's it, is not logical. A logical being who set things in motion, as I believe there is, would not. It's just not logical. And you can't learn in 70 years or 80 years. Or my mother's 98, so however many years you have, you can't learn all the things that you need to learn. You can't understand how, under all circumstances, that we treat people well, that racism is bad, that all those things. You can't have all the experiences. You can't learn everything you need to learn in 70 years or 80 years or even 98 years. Isn't that a waste to not come back?
Sure. You said that people have come to you to have a curse removed, and in most cases you don't think there's a curse upon them.
Right.
Have you found any cases where there was a curse upon them?
I do. Besides Bell Witch, I do have somebody that I know who is absolutely convinced, and we go back to Ireland and we go back to Cromwell. And historically, looking up the documents, her family actually, and they were Irish, and they actually helped Cromwell, and they were cursed by the wise woman in a village as it burned. And I've never seen in my life anybody that has as bad luck as she does.
So that is somebody who has a curse. Have you attempted to assist her?
I have, but she's not cooperating with me. And then I have another friend who feels like she has one, again, a family, and she's taken steps to get rid of it, and has people helping her work on it. So, because, everything can be undone, except being dead, and then you come back anyway.
You're really convinced of that, huh?
Absolutely.
I'm really have toyed with the idea myself. It seems logical, and but there are problems with it, and one of them, of course, is the increasing population. We've gone from hundreds of millions to billions in a rather short period of time. So one has to wonder where, if you believe in such things, all the additional souls are coming from.
But don't you think that an omnipotent being can just make more, like Doritos?
Yeah.
If the Doritos company can just make more, I'm pretty sure that which is God can just make more.
Well, I guess, yes, you would imagine he could do anything. So
I would. Maybe not as tasty, but there you go.
All right. I've talked to a number of hypnotists who were very, very interesting, Tish. They took people back for various reasons, and then stumbled into prior lives.
Okay. I do that as well.
It's really chilling. You take somebody back, and then you take them back, I guess, just a little too far, and suddenly they're talking about what seems to be another life, and actually, in some cases, Tish, they actually give details of that prior life that can be verified.
Yes.
In this life, and now.
Right.
So.
Because we have the internet.
What we do now, yes, we do now.
And we can look stuff up.
That's right. So that is somewhat convincing to me.
It's convincing to me because, and you'll hear people, and I've heard people say, oh, doing regressions is just, stupid because everybody will say, everybody says they're famous. Everybody is, Anne Boleyn. Everybody is whoever.
Yeah.
Ivan the Terrible. And I have found that to not be true. And I've done, in 24 years, hundreds of regressions. I mean, honest to goodness, hundreds. Never have I done one that the person was famous. Ain't that a kick in the head?
Well, actually, it leads me to another question. I had no idea that you dabbled that much in hypnosis and particularly regression. So have you gone back intentionally looking for prior lives?
Yes.
Wow. How frequently do you have success doing that kind of regression?
With, like when clients come to me?
Yes.
I have only ever failed twice.
Holy smokes.
It's not a bad track record.
Or witchcraft smoke, whatever.
There you go, poof.
That's incredible.
I love it. I love it. I love the vicariously living through other people, and for me, it's not just we're not just going on a tourist trip, okay? I send them back to the lifetime that they most need to see, that has the most information for them, that allows them to fix some things that are going on in the here and now lifetime.
Again, reference to karma?
Reference to karma, or reference to patterns that you didn't know were there.
Wow.
And so to send them back into, and then to watch them when they come out and go, oh my gosh. And so one of my absolute favorites was a girl, and I sent her back to the lifetime she needed to see. And so she's describing to me that, she's a little girl, and she's skipping down the road, and her hair's in pigtails, and she has on Sunday clothes, and her parents are walking behind her, probably in the 20s maybe, and they're on their way to church. It's a beautiful sunny day, and a car comes up from behind them and but swerves around the parents and hit the child and kill the child.
Oh my.
And so I said to her, because it's very helpful to see how you die, to help you process what's going on. And she would say, oh, it really hurt. I really hurt. And I said, I want you to leave your body, and I want you to walk over to the car, because the man then hit a fence pole after he was drunk from the night before. It was early Sunday morning, still drunk. And he hit the fence pole, and I said, I want you to walk over and look at him. And she said, oh, I think he's dead too. I said, okay. And I want you to understand and to be able to identify if you, in the here and now lifetime, know this man. And we can talk about it when you come back. And she said, oh, no, I know him. I know this man.
Oh, good Lord.
And she said, when she got done, and I brought her out of trance, and she said she was in foster care, and she was 10 years old before she was adopted. The family into which she was adopted, the grandfather was the man, and I get chills talking about it, was the man that ran over her. And she said, he made me everything I am. He taught me everything I know. He waited for me. And I mean, I was just blood. I'm right here. I got chills running up and down my arms right now, just recanting that story. And
I can imagine. Yes,
amazing.
I really can imagine. All right. So, big question for you. This is an area of intense interest to me. This regression into prior lives. So, is it possible that a person under hypnosis, under such conditions, especially seeking you out and wanting this, has a preconception of what their prior life was? And I guess I'm saying, is there any way for you to be sure that when they're under, they're telling you the truth?
So I'm going to get really spooky now, because I'm seeing what they're telling. I'm seeing it. I've only had one person lie to me. I knew she was lying. I've only ever had two people that I couldn't get under, but psyche and spirit knows. So when you're in trance, and it's a very light trance, and I always say you're in charge of it, you're in control, you can wake up at any time, blah, blah. Spirit knows. And so if I am saying to you, and you're under, you're going to the lifetime that has the most meaning, that has the most bearing, the lifetime that you need to see, the lifetime where there are answers, the lifetime where you will find out what it is that you need to know to make improvements in your here and now lifetime. You're going to go there. I believe you're going to go there. And I've seen people be really surprised at who they were, where they lived. The only person that I can ever remember doing that was quasi-famous, and you had to know history, because he was the British commander, the English commander on Stirling Bridge, who always, and he did reenactment, he always dressed as a Scotsman. So he was not pleased.
It's okay. I don't need famous. I think that's all a bunch of bull anyway, for the most part. You know, because so many, when they go back, are, yes, as you point out, always somebody famous.
Right.
Nonsense.
Nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense. But there's always something to gain, I feel. There's always something to gain. It's not just for fun and games. It's not just a tourist trip. There's purpose in it. And I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do.
What caught me about it originally was that some physicians that I talked to and interviewed did it by mistake.
Oh, my.
You know, actually took somebody back by mistake. Just simply went too far. And then began to get this information. And frankly, it scared the hell out of them.
I bet it did, because they were flipping out.
Yep.
And oh my gosh, how do we get them back?
But then they moved from that into investigation of the phenomenon.
Right.
You couldn't take somebody, could you, into, this is really a wild question, a future life?
I have never done it. I understand that people do it. I have not ever done it, and I'm not sure how to do it. So there's your honest answer. I don't know.
Okay, well, that's good.
Can I put a codicil here, or can I put a warning label on this? I'm trained, and I went to school, and I have a nice piece of paper in a frame that says I am a certified hypnotherapist. Okay. As I started to get interested in this 20 years ago, I listened to a tape that a fellow brought me where there was a bunch of people, and they were just playing around, and they knew just enough to be dangerous. And they put him under with no guidelines. When I put you under, you're safe. You can open your eyes at any time. Nothing can hurt you. You're only observing it. It's like looking at a movie, so on, so on, so on. He had none of those going in. He went into a lifetime where a lot of people got killed because he was having sex in the barn with somebody and wasn't at his post watching.
Oh.
I listened to 45 minutes of him sobbing. And people saying, you need to come back. You need to come back. How do we get him back? We need to come. It made the hair on my head stand up. And it made me so angry I wanted to slap all those people. And so there must be safeguards, because you are in there in somebody's psyche. You're messing around in their brain. There has to be safeguards going in. So I just want to throw that.
Yeah,
out.
but okay, isn't the whole goal to have them work this out?
He didn't, and he was stuck, and they couldn't get him back.
Well, no, I get that. He was stuck, and he had done something awful, and a bunch of people died as a result.
Right.
But still, didn't he have to live that through?
Yes, I agree, but there was he was living it.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't just observing it. He wasn't just looking at it like it was a movie. He hadn't been told nothing there could hurt him. He was standing there in about the 3rd century and living it. And so that's the difference. That's not how I would have handled it. But I also would have got him back. I've never had one I couldn't get back.
I'm happy to hear that. I always worry about that possibility.
They're just wandering around the 3rd century.
That would be awful. I mean, if you couldn't get somebody back, you have essentially sent them back in time, and that's where they're going to remain if you couldn't get them back.
You couldn't get them back. I mean, they got him back eventually, but it was such a traumatizing event that, we sat and talked about it on very numerous occasions and how it affected him. And so what I was able to do was to walk him through the life choices he had made in this lifetime based on that lifetime. Because he was always a warrior, he was always a guardian, he was always a cop, he was a Vietnam veteran, he was always, in this lifetime, the warrior.
So when he came out of this, did he have detailed recollection of
Yes.
what he went through? Really?
Yes.
Gee,
Yeah,
that
I think you
could
have to
almost give you
suffer for it.
PTSD, huh?
I mean, I have people cry. Absolutely. But I do readings for people and make them cry. So, if I regress them, they're going to cry. But I mean, I have people cry over what they saw or what they didn't see or what they lost or whatever, and I help them make the resolution with it. So that they're not sobbing uncontrollably for 45 minutes and you can't get them to come back.
All right, well, that's pretty powerful, I think, evidence that there are prior lives, therefore there is reincarnation.
I believe it. I mean, I absolutely believe it, and a lot of people believe it. And across the world, as you know, more people believe in reincarnation than don't.
I heard that the Catholic Church actually at one time, taught reincarnation, said it was real. Council of Nicaea, I think, took it out, if I'm correct.
Took a lot of things out.
Hold on. We'll be right back. This is Midnight in the Desert. I'm Art Bell.
And that we will leave Midnight in the Desert for tonight as the new day in Dominion dawns. So with that, of course, make sure you please like, share, and subscribe. Get us to those goals. So Boxy, the Nexter's crazy lady with the blue doggy will actually pay attention to us. 5,000 views will do that. 1,000 subscribers through YouTube and Google pay attention. Of course, once they pay attention, they send us gifts, and we can send those to you, the guests and watchers. Coinbase.com/join/Steve Parsley. Get yourself $10 free in Bitcoin. Use that to purchase items, whether it be Valkyrie's Favor, diamonds, or emeralds, or anything else you like here in Dominion. And of course, with those Coinbase Earn less than 2-minute lessons, 1-question answers, more crypto free for you. And until next time, make sure, of course, it's always a new world to release the Krakens. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.